Ah yes, Castlevania, one of the pillars of classic retro gaming. Of course, this series has seen better days in recent years, but it is undoubtedly one of the most amazing series you've ever seen or played. But there have been some contentions over the years over what exactly is canon. Well, of course, Simon Belmont is canon, and we've seen Richter all over the place with Alucard. But what about things like Sonia Belmont or the Lords of Shadow games, and what in the world is even a Castlevania to begin with? Now, of course, most people would presume, well, the numbered entries have to be canon, of course. But who's to say they're not all canon? Hear me out here. When it comes to the contentious games in this franchise, there are three that come to mind: Castlevania Legends, Castlevania Circle of the Moon, and Castlevania 64 and Legacy of Darkness. Starting with the earliest title on this train, Castlevania 64, this game was released to a critical flop. Symphony of the Night had come out just a couple years prior to much mixed reception due to it not being a full 3D game, many holding out hope that the new Castlevania on the N64 would do leaps and bounds above the PlayStation Symphony of the Night, were treated with a musical pun of entering the Forest of Silence with zero music, and controls that seemed a bit archaic. We had been treated to things like Mario 64, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon by this point, and yet Konami struggled to push out its first 3D game. In all respects, though, this game is absolutely much better on recent replays. But what makes this game not canon? We play as Reinhard Schneider. Of course, that's already a red flag. Schneider, we're not playing as a Belmont. And that usually is where people would say, well, it's not canon. But, of course, if you've read the manuals and looked into the character, you have probably learned that Schneider is merely a Belmont with his name changed. Yes, after Richter's tirade in Symphony of the Night, the Belmonts couldn't use the whip for a period of time, so it was drifted off to other bloodlines that could possibly have descended from the Belmonts. Things like the Morris clan for Castlevania Bloodlines and Portrait of Ruin. And of course, we've had non-Belmont games that are canon, like Order of Ecclesia. So, it plagues to reason that Reinhardt is absolutely canon because he's a Belmont who had to change his name due to other kids teasing him about him not being, a Belmont and them not believing that Dracula's real. It's also very important to note that Reinhardt's story has a specific date before World War I, which has been stated the Morris clan was next, in line right around that date as well. And that game opens up for Castlevania Bloodlines with Dracula being dead and the main villain being Elizabeth Barkley. So it stands to reason that perhaps this game is absolutely canon, and it really does hurt nothing if it isn't, or is, so might as well throw it on there. And that's why Reinhard Schneider is probably a Belmont.
Wait, so we weren't talking about Richter?
No? Huh. Well, that was disappointing. But let's just try our next one with Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Here we play as Nathan Graves. This character has been disputed as canon, it has been taken in and out of the timeline multiple times, and the game takes place right before Reinhardt's adventure, so what's the deal? Well, of course, Nathan Graves is not a Belmont, but he also doesn't use the Vampire Killer. He uses the Hunter Whip, which was lost after Richter, so, of course, perhaps this game can be canon. But what leads me to really say this game is canon is, one, the look of Dracula is very clear in this game. He looks a lot more rugged. He definitely looks like he's getting up there. And it mirrors his resemblance in Castlevania 64. Then, again, you can also state that Dracula looks very similar in most games he appears in. But what really sets this game apart is the fact that it was released in the Castlevania Anniversary Collection. Konami has been doing a re-release of most of its older titles, but this is the only game in the series to get brand new artwork just for the opening splash screen of that game. We didn't get any new Soma Cruz artwork, we didn't get anything for Harmony of Dissonance, but Nathan stands there bright as day with brand new art as I speak in 2023. Of course, that's not to say that this game has to be canon just because there's new artwork of a character. Heaven knows we've seen lots of games get new artwork of old characters that aren't canon. But I lean into the fact that this game is most likely more canon because it was re-released by Konami on an official collection. And that's saying a lot. And that's what leads me to believe that Nathan Graves is most likely canon to the Castlevania series.
Wait, so we're not talking about Simon Belmont?
No. Oh. Well, I suppose that leaves one game left, and if I'm just sitting here and being honest, this is the game that is least likely to be canon. Although it was recently re-released on the Switch, for the Switch Online. The game is not very good, and has been taken in and out of canon multiple times, but it is the only game that has stayed out of canon. Of course, I'm talking about Castlevania Legends, with Sonia Belmont being the first Belmont to fight Dracula. But that doesn't make sense. Leon, obviously, was the first one to fight Dracula. But mind you, Dracula was called Matthias in this game, and it begs to reason that perhaps because Sonia is fighting Dracula in this game, and is the first time a Belmont has had to fight Dracula, the Belmont clan did not interact with Matthias within the time between Lament of Innocence and Castlevania Legends. Of course, this game getting re-released doesn't mean a whole lot. Konami's released a couple different games in Switch Online. But, as the spooky season is coming to a close, and I mean coming to a close, let me give you some reasons that Sonia is most likely canon. Well, one, the fact that she would be Trevor's mother is a huge step in building a family tree for the Belmonts. And while even if her relationship with Alucard isn't what fully sparked it, we do note that Belmonts after Trevor do start to have more magical presences in their life, and while some of that is dictated to Sypha Belnades, Trevor also has some amazing strength out there, and it could come to reason that perhaps Trevor had some amount of magical abilities in him all along, even if they were subtle, stemming from the fact that he would be a quarter vampire, if that at all, because we've never known how vampires truly breed in the Castlevania series. But who am I kidding? Wouldn't this bar them from the whip? Not necessarily, seeing as Alucard is absolutely able to withstand the power of the whip. It begs the reason this game could probably be canon. But what do I know? I'm just going on conjecture.
The hell is Castlevania?
Hi guys, sorry this video was very, very late. I have been very brain-rattled, depressed, and all over the place. I've got more videos coming, streams are going to be slow going forward, and I'm sure most people are interested in that comic that I've got working on. I'll have that done when I get it done. Work is slow for me, and pacing myself is more important than me getting videos out every day. I promise you though, I'm always working and I'm always thinking about this damn channel. With all of that being said though, don't expect the next video out right away. Don't expect the next stream to be tomorrow. And sorry again that I missed Halloween and kind of missed a lot of my deadlines. I do plan on finishing up and doing the rest of those games in November, but heaven knows when. But this is it for me. Good night, everybody.